Hey everyone, I hope you guys are enjoying Monster Hunter Rise or Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak in whichever platform you're choosing to play it on. Today we're going to be going over a brand new set of details that we have directly from Capcom regarding a brand new developer interview as part of their Capcom blog series, where the developers decide to give us some insight and details regarding some of the things that they did in order to be able to make the game pretty much as exciting as it can be or has been while we're all deciding to play it. Today we're going to be checking out a developer interview from Koichi Shibata speaking to Ken Yamasaki, speaking essentially as the lead animator for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, and they decide to break down not just some of the brand new attacks that other monsters get to have, but more specifically they break down all the information that you need to know regarding Garangolm, one of the three lords and of course a brand new monster introduced to the series. So essentially one of the first questions is usually an introduction, and we're also going to have some clips that I'm going to be overlaying as I'm talking as well, since they kind of like showed off a couple of clips in the link. I'm going to be providing that link at the bottom in the video description. The first question simply reads, first off, could you give us a quick explanation of your role in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak? He simply explains that a part of his task as a leader, he was in charge of monster animations, mainly in charge of Garangolm, one of the three lords, and is one of the iconic faces for Sunbreak, so he tried his best to make a unique and a memorable monster. Of course, I think at the end of the day, Garangolm is probably the weakest of the three lords, but it's not necessarily his fault. It's the first one you get to fight, so it is what it is. It's not an elder dragon like Malzeno, so that's a given. In the second question, they touched upon the fact that they ask, what kind of themes and guidelines do you use when designing the animation for the monsters? He replies that Garangolm's motif was Frankenstein's monster. On top of that, it needed to behave like a realistic animal living in nature. So those who were the two important aspects of the animation design. I talked to the team members about his character a lot, and this is how we ended up with the current Garangolm. And this is not really that much of a surprise. Even in the story aspects of Sunbreak, they specifically talk about how Garangolm is just kind of like a monster in nature that is pretty much his environment, is not temperamental, it's kind of like a big softy. It will protect this area if it needs to, but it's not really going to go out of its way to start picking fights, whether it is with weaker monsters or any other type. In the third question, they ask, what kind of process do you go through when creating animations? He responds that the process for making monster animations is to first get the design documents from the game designers that contain information on what kind of gameplay they envision and what type of attacks they want to make. Based on that design, the documents, and the character's image of the monsters, we start making temporary animations. These temporary animations are used to test the gameplay and give the visual impressions of the monster's motions and characteristics and its uniqueness, which need to be vetted by the game director and the art director. When we get an okay, we start tweaking the animations in the game and alongside the game designs for the VFX, which sometimes involve making modifications to improve the quality. Once the gameplay and visuals are hammered out, we go into the final brush up phase, and then the animations are done. And on top of that, they add a really good image where they kind of showcase the stages that Garangolm does go through. Pretty much as he's normally walking around. Usually whenever you're not engaging with him, he will not be enraged in any sort of format. Then in the second little like image on the white side, on the left side of the screen, you get to see him kind of like begin to glow. That's when he starts to get enraged. He then eventually puts his arms through the ground, and that is when his right arm gets like lava, rocks kind of stuff. The left side of his arm gets kind of mossy. And then in the fourth stage, now he does still have those, things that he picked up from the ground, like the moss and the rock formations added to his skin. But on top of that, now he's enraged on top of that. So he seems a little bit bigger than normal. And that's pretty much the entire animation setup that they are discussing here. In the fourth question, and I'm going to be overlaying some of the gameplay clips that we do get to see there because they showcase some of the motion capture. They ask, I've heard that when monster animations are made up of human motion capture, how does that work? His response is, for characters like Garangolm that have motions that can be copied by human beings, we often use motion capture. We even sometimes use motion capture for flying monsters like Malzeno, where the actors have to use their arms as wings. This is basically goes off for all the characters, but motion capture data is generally used as the base material, and the actual finished animations tend to be quite different. However, we maintain the more detailed movements and expressions of the actors when they play a monster, so we try to make the most out of the capture footage when creating final animations. And of course, you should be able to see some of those clips that they shared both in social media, but of course in the article as well. There's a couple more that are in the article, so again, link in the description below, where they showcase Ken Yamasaki, again the person doing the interview, kind of like doing the attacks for Garangolm and Malzeno, and presumably Lunagaron as well. Now there is a really funny clip, and this one is, I'm gonna put that at the back end of the video because it has audio attached to it. I think it's pretty funny. It's all in Japanese, so you guys are gonna be able to see it. Someone posted it on the replies for this specific like article when they shared it on social media, so I'm gonna be leaving a link in the description for that as well, where they pretty much showcased Ken kind of like doing the entire Rajang versus Kidding fight back in Monster Hunter World and Iceborne, where they pretty much go through the entire setup of like Rajang fighting Kirin, ripping off the horn and getting powered up and doing the lightning attacks subsequently from Kirin, essentially stealing Kirin's power and being able to do that. Although Rajang does automatically have lightning attacks, he does take Kirin's power in that specific instance as it breaks his horn. So this was pretty much a clip. Again, I'm going to be leaving that at the back end of the video, where I believe it was part of a developer interview, one of those like highlight Capcom showcases that they do in Japan. That was a Japanese exclusive presentation that they had for World and Iceborne, so it was pretty funny to see. Simply put, in the last question that they asked, being the person who created the animation, it must be really easy for you to dodge monsters' attacks. I'm guessing they were referencing to the actual in-game experience. He says that that's right. For most attacks, I can immediately tell what's coming just by looking at the startup animation, so I'm generally able to dodge everything. I also know exactly when the monster is open to counterattacks, so I know when to move and to retaliate. But this knowledge also leads me to be overconfident, so it's not like I just can trounce every monster like I worked on, and I can still have a lot of fun fighting monsters I'm familiar with. Each monster has its own unique characteristics, so I encourage people to take a closer look at the animations while dodging and keeping a safe distance, of course. And of course, that's kind of like one of the, I guess, speedrunner skills that a lot of people ended up picking up. The fact that, you know, you have to be able to telegraph, you know, most of the attacks for most monsters. A lot of speedrunners will use gear that kind of like drains their health to the point of like, you know, agitate, I believe is a skill where like you basically lose all your health, or the more health you have drained, the better. You know, they stack it up with other skills to kind of drain your health, and eventually you get hit once, you're gonna cart, and that's gonna pretty much run your speed run. So you want to be able to dodge all those attacks as best as possible, and of course do the max amount of damage as you can. But that's pretty much all the information that I have for you guys today. I always found these developer interviews interesting because they always provide information for the game on the back end of things. I know they're not appealing to everyone. That's completely understandable. Everyone expecting new information for the new game or updates for free title updates or whatever the case is. But it's always good to know why the developers do the things that they do, and whether you have a criticism or agree or disagree with it, it's always too good to have their side of it. Once I'm going to stop talking, I'm going to go ahead and put that clip up that I mentioned from the Rajang and versus Kirin, and as they showcase pretty much the motion capture from the developers on their end. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of the clip.
このシーンを浮かべればいいんですね。これ？そうそう。これが？そうです。
この人がラージャンです。
そうです。これラージャンね。
これ心の目で見てください。はい、これラージャンね。これは？
これキリンです。
キリン。
今のキリンです。
キリンですって言われても、
はい
これ白い点々ついてるでしょ体に、あれで動きを取ってるんですよ、
ボタンみたいなやつ。
だからこの人がモーションをつけてる。
このペットボトルはキリンの角です。
いやー
あれキリンの角です。
想像力が試されるな。
ラージャンがキリンにラージャンがキリンに似てる。
嘘でしょ
ほらラージャンがキリンに
ほら、全く同じ動きをしております。
ほらラージャンキリンに
すごい。
これなりきっていただいて。
あ、来たキリンが来た。捕まえ。
これねこれね。
いきますよ。
角
ビリビリの。
すごい。なんかすごい。最初面白かったけど引き込まれてきました。これ手は何ですか？長くしてるのは。
ちょっと後で説明します。これ
はい
ね。
ちょっと説明します。はい。
やってる。
はい、通称ババハンドって言われてるギブスなんですよ。ちょっと後で説明します。
すごい。どっちが先かもはや分かんないですけど、こっちが先で作ったんですよね。人間の方が先。
後で真似しても仕方がないです。
でハンターね、これハンターも出てきますよ。
でハンター乗ります。
乗ってますね。
ハンター側も取らないといけ
ほら
ないので。
これハンター。
これすごい。これすごい。
これハンターさんです。
やってることは同じなんですけど、ハンターの方がすごく見えるでしょ。
すごい。
はい、こういうことやってます。
ジャニーズの舞台みたいだった。す